Let's work a percent mixture problem. Okay, so our problem states that Susan invested her savings into two investment funds. The $6,000 that she invested in Fund A returned a 6% profit. The amount she invested in Fund B returned a 1% profit. How much did she invest in Fund B? So that's what we're trying to figure out. How much did she invest in Fund B if both funds together returned a 4% profit? Step one, and arguably the most important step, because you definitely can't go on without it, and it's often skipped, make sure you understand the question. Draw a picture if you can. You should be able to restate that question in your own words without looking at it before you go on and try to solve it. So let's draw a picture. So let's draw a little picture that represents what the problem says. So Susan has some savings. Here's her savings. A little dollar sign. She splits it into two funds, Fund A and Fund B. And what do we know? We know that she puts $6,000 in Fund A. And again, forget my handwriting. I'm writing on a screen here. Not always my best writing. At 6% profit. We know that Fund B has a 1% profit. We don't know how much money she puts in Fund B, and in fact, that's precisely what we're supposed to figure out. How much does she invest in Fund B? So we can let that be our unknown. We can call that X. That's the amount she puts in Fund B. If it helps you, go ahead and write here, identify your variable. Let X be the amount in Fund B. Okay, we've identified our variable here. All right, so there's a little picture of what's going on. And before we proceed, let's just restate the question. Hopefully you can do this without looking at the question. You might try to pause and do this for yourself real quick. But we know that she has her savings that she splits into two funds. $6,000 in one fund. We don't know how much is in the other, but we're trying to figure out. The first fund has 6% profit. The second fund has 1% profit. And we know that her total profit is 4% of what she invests. And that's what we start with here. So now let's try to write what we're trying to solve as an English statement. Our next step is to write an equation that we can solve. You're going to want to start with an equation written in words, and then you're going to translate that into math symbols. Don't try to just start throwing math symbols around until they actually represent something. So the key information we have that we haven't used yet is that both funds together returned a 4% profit. Okay, so let's sort of write this out in words. So we know that the profit from Fund A, plus the profit from B is, and of course that's an equal sign, so that's is 4% of both funds. 4% of both funds. So that's going to be our guiding statement. The rest of our work is simply to translate that idea into math symbols so that we can solve for our own unknown, which is the profit from B. All right, so let's just work to translate this statement. We'll sort of keep this here into math. Okay, so the profit from A. The profit from A is going to be, so she had 6,000 in A at a 6% profit. So 6% of 6,000 is the profit. So you can write this in steps if you want. 6% of 6,000 is the profit from A. If you want, you can go ahead and write that as, that's a decimal, 0.06 times $6,000. So those two statements are the same. 6% of $6,000 is 0.06 times 6,000. We're going to add that to the profit from B. B, we didn't know how much was in there, but there was a 1% profit. So it's going to be 1% of X. X is how much is in B. We don't know how much that is yet. So we get 0.01 times X. That's the left-hand side of our equation. And then the right-hand side is we have 4% of both funds. Okay, so both funds. So we take the amount from A, which is $6,000, plus the amount from B, which is our unknown X. Okay, so then just translating that, this is 0.04 times 6,000 plus X. There's our equation. That wasn't too bad. There's our equation. Oops, I was trying to highlight that, but let's see if I can highlight that. Okay, so there's our equation. All that's left is to solve that linear equation. We'll do that next. All right, you need to solve this linear equation. Lots of ways you can do this. You can just go ahead and distribute and work with the decimals. What I'd like to do is I notice that every decimal is a 0.0 something, so I can multiply both sides of the equation by 100, and then I can clear the decimals. So here I'm going to multiply the whole left-hand side by 100. I'm going to multiply the right-hand side by 100. So on the left, I get 6 times 6,000. On the right, I get 1 times X. Not on the right-hand side of the left-hand side, if you will. And now on the right-hand side, 0.04 times 100 is 4. And then 6,000 plus X. A real common error is to try to distribute the 100 to some of these terms, right? But this is multiplication, right? So this is something, let's say, so it's this times, I'm trying to think of an object to represent it but not use A and B. Let's say this is C and this quantity is D, right? So we don't distribute over multiplication. So this is something times something. Now D itself is addition. So we would distribute C over D, but we're not going to distribute the 100. This is just multiplication, C times D times 100. So 100 just gets multiplied through one time. So careful for that error. All right, and now here we have a very simple linear equation. So we get 36,000 plus X equals 24,000 plus 4X. So here we'll be careful to distribute our 4 over the addition. Now we're going to get everything with X on one side and everything else on the other. So I'm going to subtract the 24,000 from both sides to get my numbers on one side. I'm going to subtract X from both sides. Now on the right hand side I have 3X. On the left hand side I have 12,000, and so X is $4,000. And we're almost done. We want to check and also make sure that answer is reasonable. So let's kind of check and see if X is $4,000, does that work out? So we had that fund A was $6,000 at 6%. Fund B, we're saying, is $4,000 at 1%. Let's see if our equation holds that the profit from each should be 4% of 6,000 plus 4,000. So the amount from A plus, the amount from B. Let's just see if that works. Okay, 6% of 6,000 is $360. You can check that. 1% of 4,000, here you're just moving the decimal. That's 10%, that's 1%. So that's $40. And we're asking, does that equal 4% of $10,000? And yes, it does. Right? So we get $400 on the left, and that does equal 4% of $10,000, which is $400. So that's great. Our answer checks.